Folks, AI calorie tracking apps are everywhere and they're becoming more popular. So today I wanted to discuss some of my thoughts on this new trend in how to sort of quantify the macronutrients and calories you are taking in, give you some thoughts about the limitations and use cases. So let's dive right into that. So the number one thing that really stands out to me when it comes to the use of AI and visual images for tracking calories is that currently they are projecting like 85 to 90% accuracy, 85 to 90% accuracy. And that is going to allow for a lot of variation in your calories. So if you can imagine someone someone who's tracking at 3,000 calories, a 10% variation is going to be 300 calories either way. And that's going to be quite a bit. So that is the number one sort of consistency error that I see is going to impact a person's macronutrient intake that could make this way of tracking your calories just a little bit too inefficient. Now, if you watch the channel for any amount of time, I think you know my preference is going to be weighing your food in grams on a digital food scale. I believe this is going to produce infinitely less error in your calories, and that is going to be very important, especially if you are going to engage in any type of calorie restriction. Now, I know some people are thinking like, well, I want to sort of offload that onto this AI app because, counting calories or weighing your foods, it's too tedious. However, I will say an alternative to this is you could start eyeballing your food. You could start using other methods, but are those methods going to be as accurate as weighing your foods? No, probably not. I would hypothesize that if you paired eyeballing your food along with weighing your food for a period of time, you can get as accurate as the current AI image trackers, bare minimum at least 80 to 90% accurate in the amount of calories that you're going to be estimating. Now, again, part of the reason why I don't like the idea of these image calorie tracking apps is because of the error. So some of the error that you can introduce whenever you are taking an image is lighting and angle. So are you always going to be in the same lighting, and are you always going to give that app the same quality of image? So lighting and angle are going to be important to give that app an accurate representation of your meal. Another thing, sort of food density and dispersion on your plate. So I think we can all agree that there's probably going to be a difference in food spread across a plate and food condensed in a Tupperware container. And that's sort of the way a lot of us choose to eat our meals. When we're on the go is in Tupperware. And then when we're at home, perhaps on a plate. And you can reduce this error by, consistently eating in the same style of dish. But that also adds to the inconvenience, which these apps purport to be increasing, sort of the convenience of tracking your intake by just taking a picture. Another thing that adds to the inaccuracy, a lot of people are talking about this, it's the fat content of the meal, which is sort of why it's hard to guesstimate calorie content whenever you're going to a place like, I don't know, to get hibachi or something like that. And that little oil they spray on the pan, you can't really guesstimate how much fat is actually in that meal. If you were to compare meals side by side, a meal that you prepared yourself of just white rice, grilled chicken, vegetables, and you put that next to a hibachi meal, white rice, the chicken they grilled and whatever amounts of fats that they had on there, also the vegetables that they grilled and whatever amounts of fats are on there, and you spread those out evenly across two very similar plates, you are probably going to get similar readings, but you really have no idea. And I would bet that these apps have no idea about the true fat content, and that being the most calorie dense macronutrient, that's going to be really important. It's probably going to be less accurate with oils. It's probably going to be less accurate with nuts, with butters, any number of things that have a high fat content. And when you're trying to lose fat, it's going to be important to be accurate in that area. Now, who might these apps be for? I would say the casual user who is just trying to get in the ballpark of their calories, isn't looking for any sort of extreme or lots of fat loss in the near future, and someone who is looking to really reduce their cognitive burden in terms of thinking about what they should be eating. I think there is a very credible way to use these apps to just get in the ballpark of your proteins and your carbs, and maybe a little bit less efficient in identifying how much fats you're taking in. But if you are weight training 3 to 5 days a week, and you just want a simple way, just snap a picture and go, I think, probably would be for you. But if you are interested in bodybuilding or the sort of extreme limits of body fat loss, then this app begins to show its shortcomings. I want to come back to something else that I'd said earlier, and that is about cognitive burden. I think one of the costs of starting any new habit whether that be fitness or nutrition, is going to be the cognitive load that you add on yourself. Cool thing about these apps is if you just take a picture of your food, that sort of offloads some of the cognitive burden of learning how to weigh your foods, of learning how to count and quantify your macronutrients. It does that for you within a certain margin of error. However, I want to introduce you to Hebb's rule. If it fires together, it wires together. And then sort of my addendum to that, offload too soon, neurons will prune. Now, I think there is a cognitive benefit to weighing food by hand, visualizing macros and calorie content, and working with these numbers in your head. Now, I see a lot of the downstream effects of this sort of offloading of cognitions onto AI and other things in academia and honestly in myself. So we have fewer opportunities to recall information, which recall is the foundation of our learning. So we have fewer attempts to pull these things out of our long-term memory and ingrain it, whether it's through portion control and eyeballing or counting with a scale. I think these are important life skills to have because perhaps we're not going to always have our phone. Perhaps we're going to be on vacation and perhaps it'll be inconvenient to take these pictures. We need to learn and ingrain a certain set of skills that allow us to practice, good nutrition whenever we don't have any of this technology around. So when these apps are most problematic for fitness people, I would say if you want to go from moderate digit body fats into single digits or low single digit body fat, this might not be the way. Additionally, the longer you diet, dietary specificity is going to increase. If you're in the off season, by all means, give it a shot. I think that's probably when it's going to be most useful to see if this can work for you. But really, when cutting seriously, fat content becomes really important, especially, the quantity of fat content becomes important. And that's where these apps seem to fall short. So what about cost though? Now, not bad compared to many apps with sort of these AI backbones. I think, what is it? Cal AI. I think that is $29.99 for a year. So honestly, the investment cost here might even be worth it just to give it a shot to see if it adds to your life in some way. But I will also point out this sort of adds to the subscription creep that I believe we're all dealing with nowadays. You have this app, you have Netflix, Hulu, all your other sort of streaming services. If you have a fitness app, RB hypertrophy app, it's going to add on to that yearly annual subscription. So I would say, although this being very cheap, it is going to lock you into another subscription that you pay for annually. So just something to consider as well. So my one recommendation, like if you want sort of a reduced cognitive burden in terms of tracking your food and you don't want to waste stuff, I highly recommend checking out one of the videos on the channel, and that's about the hand model of eating. That gives you a personalized way to estimate food quantities and calories and macronutrients based off of your hand. And if you develop that skill, even if you don't have your phone, you presumably will always have a hand, hopefully both of your hands, so you can really take it anywhere. And if you're interested in bodybuilding or bodybuilding psychology, hit subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next episode. Peace.